Michael Carter pulled the diner door open slowly, letting the soft chime of the entry bell ring out across the restaurant. No one looked up. Good. That meant the disguise was working. A fraying flannel shirt, jeans that had seen better days, and 3 days' worth of stubble did the trick. He'd owned this place, Carter's Diner, for over 15 years. From a greasy spoon with flickering lights and a single fryer, he had turned it into a beloved local institution with 4 busy locations across the city. And yet no one recognized him now. Perfect. He slid onto the farthest stool at the counter, keeping his head low under the brim of a worn baseball cap. From here, he could observe without being observed. That was the plan. This wasn't a regular visit. Michael hadn't set foot in this flagship location in over a year, too wrapped up in expansion plans, investor meetings, and the endless machinery of growth. But lately, something had started gnawing at him. Customer reviews were still glowing, but employee turnover had spiked. And most puzzling, profits at this location were quietly dipping. Something wasn't right. The lunch rush was in full swing. Waitresses zigzagged between tables, cooks shouted over sizzling grills, and the register rang up orders with machine-like rhythm. But beneath the surface bustle, Michael sensed something off, a tension that didn't belong. Then he saw him, this dishwasher, thin, white-haired, his movements steady but deliberate. His name tag was smudged, but Michael squinted. Henry. The old man moved with a kind of silent grace, stacking plates with practiced precision, even as chaos swirled around him. He didn't rush, he didn't falter. While others shouted and scrambled, Henry seemed to glide. "Turkey club and a coffee," Michael said when a young cashier finally noticed him. Her name tag read Megan. She rang up the order without making eye contact. Michael slid a 20 across the counter. "That guy, Henry. How long's he been around?" Megan barely suppressed an eye roll. "Forever. Should have retired years ago if you ask me." He sipped his coffee, watching Henry out of the corner of his eye. In the next hour, he never stopped moving. When a bus boy dumped a full tray of dishes into the sink, splashing Henry's already soaked apron, the old man didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled and kept working. Customers passed by the dish window, calling him by name. He always smiled back, sometimes with a kind word. Just before the lunch rush died down, a woman with 2 small kids stepped up to the register. She opened her wallet and froze. Her whisper to Megan was almost inaudible, but Michael saw the shift in the cashier's face. Irritation. Megan called over another cashier. Troy, their tone was hushed, impatient. The mother's face flushed with embarrassment. Then, like a shadow stepping into light, Henry appeared beside them. Michael couldn't hear what was said, but he saw it. Henry discreetly pulling some bills from his pocket and handing them to Megan. The mother mouthed a tearful, "Thank you. That's the 3rd time this week," Troy muttered. Megan smirked. "He's gonna go broke saving strays." Michael's hand tightened around his coffee cup. He hadn't come here to catch drama, but he might have just found it anyway. The next day, Michael returned. Same flannel, same ball cap, same quiet presence. But this time, his eyes scanned every movement with sharper focus. He didn't just want answers now. He wanted the truth. And the truth had a way of hiding behind routine. The diner was slower today. Just the mid-afternoon lull between lunch and dinner. Fewer customers. More room for whispers. Henry was already at work. Michael slid into a booth near the counter. From there, he could see the dish station, clearly as well as the registers. He ordered a coffee and pie, then unfolded a newspaper to cover his line of sight. But his ears were open. Troy leaned against the counter by Megan's register, speaking just loudly enough for Michael to catch snippets. "Can you believe he's been here 7 years?" Troy sneered. 7. Washing dishes, pathetic. Megan laughed. "What's pathetic is him covering for every broke customer that walks in here. Single moms, teenagers, grandpas with no cash. He plays the hero for all of them." "With what, his Social Security pennies?" Michael's knuckles whitened around his coffee cup. "I bet he lives in that old Buick," Megan said, lowering her voice. "Have you seen it? Looks like it should be in a junkyard. Cardboard box behind Walmart, Troy muttered. Michael pretended to turn a page, though he could barely contain the heat rising in his chest. They weren't just mocking an elderly man. They were circling him like sharks. And then the tone shifted. Patricia's starting to notice the drawer shortages, Megan whispered. Perfect, Troy replied. Because here's the thing. We know Henry's been putting his own cash in the register when people come up short. But Patricia doesn't. She just sees the drawer coming up light. Megan's eyes lit up. So if the drawer's a little lighter, and Henry just happens to be the one near it? Troy grinned. Boom. We plant the doubt. Patricia connects the dots herself. They exchanged a fist bump. Michael sat frozen, in place. They weren't just cruel. They were calculated. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of observation. Henry, true to form, covered for a teenager who couldn't pay for a burger, slipping a few dollars to Megan when he thought no one was watching. Later, he helped a waitress clean up after a dropped tray, taking the blame when the manager passed by. Not once did he complain. Not once did he ask for thanks. When the coffee machine backed up, Henry stayed late to fix it. Michael waited in his car long after his meal was done. From across the street, he watched Henry emerge from the back door nearly an hour after closing. The old man moved slowly, rubbing his back. He climbed into the battered Buick, and instead of driving off into a neighborhood, he turned down an unlit service road. Michael followed. The car creaked to a stop behind the diner's rear lot, where trees obscured a small, aging trailer. Henry got out, climbed rickety steps, and shoved open a door that resisted. A single bulb flickered on inside. Michael sat in silence, shame twisting in his gut. How had he not known? The next morning, Michael met with Ron, a longtime regular who always sat at the same counter stool. Henry? Ron said, sipping his coffee. He's a good man, lost his wife to cancer 5 years ago, paid for every treatment he could find, sold the house, cashed out retirement, even the car. Why? Didn't he declare bankruptcy? Wouldn't. Said a debt was a debt. So he took the dishwashing job, refused to take charity. Ron paused, then added softly, that trailer, it's getting torn down. Whole lot's been sold. He hasn't told anyone yet. Michael closed his eyes. He didn't come here to fix the books. He came to save his business, but now he knew what really needed saving. Michael didn't sleep much that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Henry's stooped figure climbing those worn wooden steps to the rundown trailer. He saw the way Megan sneered, the way Troy laughed like it was all a game. But this wasn't a game, and tomorrow it was going to end. By dawn, Michael had a plan, and by 9 a.m., the pieces were already moving. First, he called a contact from the local community outreach program, a woman named Jessica Miller. She was a single mom, raising a 5-year-old daughter while working 2 jobs, but she had a strong voice and a quiet strength. When Michael explained what he needed and why, she agreed without hesitation. Then he arranged for 2 technicians to quietly install backup security equipment at Carter's Diner. He didn't need the entire restaurant. Wired. Just the 2 registers, 2 small cameras, 2 hidden microphones. At precisely 10:15 a.m., Jessica entered the diner. She was dressed simply, jeans, a patched coat, her little girl's hand tucked in hers. They took a booth near the register. Michael, already seated with his coffee and newspaper in the corner, kept an eye on everything. Megan approached their table, smile professional but icy. Welcome to Carter's. What can I get you? Jessica ordered a grilled cheese for her daughter, a cup of soup for herself. Nothing more. 20 minutes later, the trap was sprung. Jessica walked to the register, pulling out her wallet. She hesitated. I'm so sorry, she said, loud enough for the room to hear. I thought I had enough. My card was declined yesterday and I haven't fixed the bank issue yet. I'm 15 short. Megan's voice turned sharp. We can't just give food away, ma'am. Maybe you should count your money before you order next time. Jessica's eyes filled with real tears. Henry, of course, saw everything. He wiped his hands, stepped out from the dish area and approached quietly. "I've got it," he said, handing Megan the cash without a second thought. Jessica whispered, "Thank you. I promise. I'll pay you back." Henry just smiled. "No. Rush. We all need help sometimes." Jessica and her daughter left. Michael watched Troy, who had been lurking nearby, smirk like a man who thought the plan was working perfectly. 10 minutes later, Troy approached Patricia at the counter. "Boss, I think we're short again. From Register 1. Patricia frowned. "That's impossible. I balanced it less than an hour ago." Megan chimed in, her tone urgent. "Actually, I saw Henry near the drawer. I think he might have been counting something." "Again?" Patricia asked, visibly stressed. "We're missing money every day now." Michael stood. He didn't need to hear another lie. Removing his cap, he strode toward the register with measured calm. Patricia's face drained of color. "Mr. Carter, I've been here all week," Michael said evenly, "and I've seen enough." The entire diner went still. Michael turned to the nearest wall-mounted television, pulling a small remote from his coat. "You said the cameras were broken, Patricia, but I installed new ones 2 days ago. Let's take a look." The footage played Troy pocketing bills, Megan voiding legitimate transactions, and then the audio. "If we frame Henry for stealing, Patricia will have to fire him." Gasps erupted across the diner. More footage. Henry slipping his own money into the drawer, Henry helping the teenager, Henry staying late, cleaning up, protecting coworkers. Michael paused the screen. "Let me be absolutely clear," he said. "The only theft happening in this diner has been done by the people pointing fingers." Troy tried to speak. Michael raised a hand. "Save it. The police are on their way." At that moment, 2 uniformed officers entered. Troy froze. Megan burst into tears. Michael turned to Henry, who stood silent, stunned. "I owe you an apology," Michael said, "for letting it get this far, for not seeing sooner." Henry shook his head slowly. "You didn't know." "No," Michael said. "But now everyone does." The room erupted in applause. Regulars stood. Some were crying. Patricia covered her mouth, visibly shaken, and Michael wasn't done yet. He turned to his staff. "Starting today, this business changes. We take care of our people, all of them." Henry didn't speak. He couldn't. But the way he stood, head held high, shoulders back, told everyone what they needed to know. The man they tried to frame wasn't just a dishwasher. He was the soul of the place. The morning after the confrontation, Carter's diner felt different. The light seemed warmer, the air lighter. Word had spread overnight about the cameras, the plot, and the man who'd been unjustly accused but never once raised his voice. In defense, they called him Henry. But now, to everyone inside that diner, he was something more. Michael arrived early, dressed not in his usual blazer and pressed shirt, but in rolled-up sleeves and jeans. A quiet message. He wasn't just the owner anymore, he was present. He was here. The staff greeted him with mixed expressions, relief, uncertainty, hope. Patricia approached. "Mr. Carter, I just wanted to say..." Michael stopped her with a gentle wave. "Let's talk after breakfast. Today isn't about apologies. It's about starting over." At 8:07 a.m., Henry walked through the front door. The usual back entrance routine was broken, on purpose. He hesitated, but then someone stood. A regular customer, Ron. He began clapping. Another joined. Then another. Within seconds, the diner erupted in applause. Henry froze. His shoulders trembled, but he nodded slowly to the room. Michael stepped forward. "Henry," he said, his voice audible across the space. "Can I speak with you in the office?" The room went still again. Henry followed, unsure. When they entered, Michael motioned to the chair. "Sit." The folder on the desk was thick. Michael slid it across. "Before you say anything, just read." Henry opened it, his eyes widened. Pay stubs, a promotion letter, healthcare benefits, retirement contributions, a salary that made his hands shake. "I don't understand," he whispered. "You're not washing dishes anymore." Michael said. "You're the floor manager, effective immediately." "I've never managed anyone," Henry said. "I'm not. You've managed integrity. You've led by example. You've cleaned up more messes than anyone on staff. And you've done it while in pain with grace and humility." Michael reached into a drawer and pulled out a second folder. "There's more. Inside, the deed to a modest house, 3 blocks away. A receipt showing Henry's late wife's medical debt paid in full." Henry dropped the folder. "I can't accept this," he said, voice cracking. "It's too much." Michael leaned forward. "It's not enough, and I won't hear another word of refusal. Your daughter knows everything now. She's been calling, worried sick. She thought you were a manager all along, remember?" Tears welled in Henry's eyes. "She still wants you to move to Seattle," Michael said gently. "But she's agreed to wait, so you can decide. Not out of guilt, out of choice." A silence passed, and then Henry said the only thing that felt dirty, "Thank you." When they emerged from the office, the staff gathered around. Patricia hugged him. The young waitress he'd shielded from blame gave him a card. Even Megan's replacement, hired that morning, walked over and said, "I've heard about you." "It's an honor," Michael called everyone's attention. "Effective today, Carter's Diner will pay living wages, provide full benefits, emergency assistance, and every store in our chain will follow the same policy. If we expect loyalty and service, we must give dignity in return." The customers applauded, but it wasn't over. "I also want to announce something new," Michael added. "The Henry Lawson Community Fund, to help customers and employees facing hard times, funded in part by the money Troy and Megan stole." Laughter rippled, but some tears, too. Henry's voice was hoarse. That means everything." A young mother stepped forward. Amy, the woman Henry had helped multiple times. She held an envelope. "We took a collection," she said. "We just wanted you to have something." Michael placed a hand on her shoulder. "He's already covered, but your gesture? That's what this place is about." He turned back to the room. "From now on, we rebuild. Not just our systems, but our values." The next few weeks passed like scenes from a healing movie. Michael visited each Carter's Diner location in person, installed hidden feedback boxes, interviewed long-serving staff, raised wages across the board. Anonymous complaints dropped to 0. Applications doubled. Henry settled into his new home, a small, tidy bungalow with a porch. He didn't move to Seattle, at least not yet. He still opened the diner most mornings, not because he had to, because he wanted to. And when he walked in, he wasn't just greeted as the dishwasher. He was greeted as the heart of the diner. But not every story ends at peace. One evening, as Michael reviewed staff files, he came across something odd: a shift report, dated a week before the sabotage, logged by Megan. It claimed a $40 discrepancy. She corrected herself. But that day, Megan wasn't on duty. The signature? Patricia's. Michael frowned. He picked up the phone. Because maybe, just maybe, Henry wasn't the only one who had been framed. Weeks passed. The rhythm of Carter's Diner found a new beat. Slower, more deliberate, but stronger than before. Customers kept coming, not for the food, though it remained excellent. They came to see Henry, to say thank you, to tell their kids, "That man, he's a real hero." Michael watched all of it quietly. Not from the corner booth anymore. He sat with his team, ate with his staff, learned their names, their birthdays, their struggles. The culture had shifted. You could feel it in the way employees spoke to each other, in the way customers lingered just a little longer. The Henry Lawson Community Fund was already changing lives. A cook whose daughter needed surgery, a barista from the downtown branch facing eviction. They got help, quietly, without shame. And Henry? He still worked, still showed up early, still swept the back steps. But now, when he spoke, people listened. He mentored new hires, walked first-timers through rush hour, never raised his voice, never had to. Every Friday afternoon, he took his lunch at the same table. Michael sometimes joined. They didn't talk much, they didn't need to. I keep thinking about Martha, Henry said once. If she were here, she'd say, "Told you so." Kindness always wins, even when it's slow. Michael smiled. She sounds like a smart woman. She was everything, Henry said. But this diner, it gives me a reason to get up, not out of obligation, out of purpose. One rainy Thursday, Michael received a letter. It was from a young man who used to bus tables at Carter's before college. Now he was a teacher. The letter read, "Dear Mr. Carter, I don't know if you remember me, but I remember Henry. He once gave me $10 so I wouldn't be embarrassed when I forgot my wallet. He didn't make a big deal of it. Just said, happens to all of us. I've never forgotten that moment. I teach now. And every time I see a kid struggling, I think, what would Henry do? Thank you for protecting someone worth protecting." Michael read it twice, then forwarded it to Henry, who framed it. As the camera pans out, the diner bustles like always. But now it carries a different energy, one of restoration, not just service. And as Michael leaves for the day, he turns. Back one last time. Henry's at the counter refilling a customer's coffee, not out of duty, out of care. But far across town, another file sits buried beneath invoices, another name, another story. Coming soon, Undercover Boss, Part 2, The Boss. Manager's Secret. Subscribe for the next chapter. Because at Carter's Diner, someone is always watching.